So hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video, are your gears literally stopping you from doing effective Zone 2 training? And we're going to go all the way up to big and big. There's actually a little bit more scope. Just finished the Fred Whitten. Turn around, cameraman. All kicking off over there. People getting lashed. Come and have a look. 180mm brake disc, Peak Torque adapter, bomb the descent to get all the time back. Big fat tyres, 32mm tyres, and a 40 tooth cassette. Completed it, mate. We're just going to mainly talk about the gearing today because I have an 1140 cassette on what is essentially a race bike. Yes, I've got big chunky tyres, 32mm tyres, 180mm front rotor, and these are just little things to help me and my fat 90kg fat Pogacar ass get around the course, because I am not gifted in terms of watts per kilo. So I needed to science and strategy my way through this event to even have a chance of getting up Hardknott Pass after 100 miles, 160k of riding without walking. And that is the whole challenge for me of the Fred Whitten. I've never done it before, but I did not want to walk in front of these photographers on 33% gradients, the daunting part, the cauldron of fear that is Hardknott Pass on the Fred Whitten. So how did I do it? Well, first of all, let me just say there are many ways to skin a cat. There are many ways, I'm sure you're going to be putting in the comments about how to customize gearing, but I'm talking about how to do it on the cheap and how to do it with a bigger total range of gearing than available when you buy off the shelf Ultegra 105 or GRX or SRAM Explore. And why the companies don't just give us these ranges? Well, it's called product line engineering or product line manipulation. They want to pigeonhole you into buying different things for different tasks, where actually with a little bit of thinking and a little bit of bodging, you can get something perfectly good to do everything. So I've got a lower gear than GRX, a higher gear, 556% gear range in total by the setup, and as far as I can see there are no downsides. Now, just before we start, like, one of the things that's on this setup is a long cage rear mech. Now, there are really no downsides to running a long cage rear mech all of the time. It's the top pulley that does the shifting off the cassette, and it doesn't really know what's underneath it. You're going to get weight weenies going, oh, you have to have a slightly longer chain, or the cage is slightly longer. Well, it's about 11 grams on this, and a few more chain links. Now, if you're worried about that sort of thing, you're probably not going to get on with this channel, because I'm not a weight weenie. I get the name Fat Pogacar, not because I can climb, mainly just because I'm fat. But anyway, so we're going to briefly look into this gear setup, and I also want to mention that this is not just for the Fred Whitten and 33% hairpin bends on Hardknott Pass. This is for general Zone 2 riding. Now, if you train more than 6-7 hours a week, there's a good chance that most of your training is going to be in Zone 2. And we know, and the science is out there to show that's very effective at improving your cycling ability in other zones and in other races. But how many of you live in a moderately hilly area like this and can honestly say, I can get up any climb in Zone 2? How many of you go outside Zone 2? How many of you are riding with people that are too fast for you when it comes to climbing? Can you really stay in Zone 2 up, 6, 7, 8% gradients? I can't. And the only way to get around it is to ride really slow, ride low gears, and ride on your own. Sounds boring, but once you've got a setup like this, it is a bit of a game changer, because I've still got the same top gear. I've still got 5211. And some of you might say, well, what about the jumps in gearing? Well, or what about the steps in gearing? Well, if the stairway doesn't go to the top, the steps are insignificant. So you've got to get there first to be able to worry about the steps. And there are some climbs around here that I just can't get up in Zone 2. And if 80% of my riding, like if I'm doing 16 hours a week, if 13 hours or whatever that are Zone 2, I just can't do it on the roads I want to do it on. So there's only one way to do it, and that's to fit lower gears, to go slower, to maintain a low power. Now, some people will say, oh, what are the fastest gears you can get on your bike? What's the top gear on your bike? Well, I think, how slow can I go on my bike? What's the lowest gear I can go on my bike so I can cycle everywhere without blowing up? Now, when you consider I normally ride an 1134, that for most people is considered a very low gear. I'll show you some shots here. I did a recce ride of Hardknott Pass about a month ago, 2 months ago, and it was a 3-hour ride, so my legs were relatively fresh. I could only just manage it on a 34. Now, come to the event day, after you've been riding 160k for 6 hours already Am I going to be able to do that? No, I'm going to have serious fatigue. So you might not think going from a 34 to a 40 is big enough to warrant a change and spending money on the bike. Well, at a constant cadence, something like my threshold, that's a 60 watt reduction in power output that I need to do to hold that cadence, which is massive. Definitely the difference between blowing up in one zone and being chilled in another. And the Fred Whitten is a very unique event where you've got 33% gradients after 160k of riding, but you've also got 50 or 60k pace lines where you can really make time by getting on the back of a group. And so just gravel group sets with small front chain rings just won't work, you'll just be spinning out. Even this 5211 was, now this started life as a short cage Dura Ace. It's a 9170 group set, it's the 11 speed, don't forget I'm still on 11 speed. The chances of me going to a 12 speed group set anytime soon, Pierce, is that a serious question? So anyway, I'm sticking with 11 speed. I think 11 speed Dura Ace Di2 was like the sweet spot Shimano's ever been. It shifts so well, and I genuinely, you're gonna think I'm lying here, but I genuinely cannot tell the difference between this shifting with a mech extender and a long cage on 1140 versus my normal 1134. Now, like I said, I normally run an 1134. However, even that is not allowed by Shimano. For this mech, they stipulated 1130 was the max. However, I always used to run this 1134 with no mods. Okay, the chain had to be longer, but short cage, no mech extender, just B-screw wound in. On this frame, 1134 worked fine, and that was fine for sort of 95% of the riding. But when I'm coming to these really steep climbs after such long hours in the saddle, I needed something easier. A lot of you said to me when I was first researching this, why don't you just buy GRX? Well, I could have bought GRX, but that's 300 quid. And all these mods were done for less than 100 quid. So chain, new plates for the mech, inner and outer, new cassette, less than 100 quid. Fitting GRX, like I could have got a whole new GRX group set. I'm going to get a low gear, potentially, but not as low as this, if I'm on the 2x GRX, because the 2x GRX only goes to 1134. And then I've not got the top gear, so I'll put in a graph here of all the stock group sets available that you can buy, stock, that the bike shop will fit for you, and follow the guidelines. And I'll just show you how like narrow those gear ranges are. So yes, they may be very low, but they stop quite far down from a high top gear, and there's no reason, and lots of other people have done it with GRX, with XT mechs, XT cages on the mechs, or using the SRAM 2x Explore setup with a bigger cassette on the back. You can push these limits, and with careful bodging you could do this to a kind of very serious road group set, which is a short cage. So how did I do it? Well, first of all, mech extender. You can use a Wolf Tooth one. I chose a Sun Race one because it's 7075. It's pretty strong. It's basically the same design and it was half the price. So first of all, you need to extend the mech to move the mech down away from the big cogs, otherwise your top jockey wheel is just going to hit the cogs. That's the first thing. The second thing you need to do is change the lower cage. And this is where it came to, being quite difficult for me, because there wasn't many blogs or internet posts or forum, articles about doing it with this Dura Ace. Is that I used a Ultegra GS, which is the medium, well, it's not a long cage, it's a medium cage. There's two options. You can either use R8000 or R8050. R8050 is being the Di2 one. And at the time I couldn't get the Di2 inner and outer plate. I could only get one. I can't remember which way around it was. So I bought one 8050 and one R8000. I thought, well, they're both Ultegra, they're both GS. They'll be the same length. They weren't.
Right, well, we've hit a bit of a stumbling block. I've got the outer plate of the GS Di2 Ultegra one on, and when I came to line up the inner plate, the O's don't line up. This is too short, even though it's R8000 GS. So what the fuck is going on? So we'll scrap this video, we'll park it. I'll send this one back.
So the R8000, the mechanical GS one, was 4mm shorter from pulley to pulley than the Di2 8050 one. So that caused me another 3 weeks delay whilst I waited for the two 8050 plates to come into stock. They bolted straight on, a longer chain. Now, believe it or not, this will go into big, I'll prove to you now, with absolutely no issues, and the chain has still plenty of scope to go even slacker. So if I shift and the chain sits up on the teeth like it sometimes does, and I get a bit of increased diameter, there's still plenty of room for slack. So it does go big, it goes small in the inner ring without any loose chain. The Di2 blocks those small, the two smallest cogs anyway, so there's no problem there, and I don't have to use synchro shift, so I don't need to block out any gears. I can shift the front mech at will. I don't need to tell it, to do it itself. I hate using synchro shift anyway. So the point is, it is doable and it's absolutely fine. I can't really think of any downsides to using this. I mean, yes, like I said, this is not a weight weenie channel. Some may not want to ride the XT cassette, but the 40 on the XT cassette does have an aluminium big cog, so it's not that heavy. It's only actually about 60 grams heavier than the Ultegra 1134, which I took off, which is an absolute chunk. The only thing you do need to get if you don't have one of these is a spacer that goes behind the cassette, because it's a mountain bike cassette. And it's the same with the Ultegra 1134 that actually comes with the spacer. But apart from that, it all works absolutely fine. I'll drop in some pictures here of it shifting, absolutely fine, no problems. Shifts absolutely fine. B screw isn't even wound all the way in. And even in that combo there, I can't shift, Di2 won't let me shift into these two bottom cogs when I'm in the small chainring. Even that combo, nothing wrong with that. Still got tension on the bottom of the chain. Yeah, I'm going to get a bit of chain slap, but I'll never ride in that combo. And then bang, we're in a super easy climbing gear. The chain. Now, to get it to go in big and to get it to go in small and small without having any loose chain, the chain does need to be link perfect. So I sized it incrementally by taking one link out at a time. Big chunky tyres, I've got a 30 on the front, a 32 on the back. I've got 180mm brake rotors. I didn't put a 180 on the back because the descents are so steep in the Fred. If it's wet, there wouldn't be much weight, well, there wouldn't be much weight on the back wheel anyway when you're descending, because they're so steep. And a massive rotor on the back might be a bit skiddy if it decided to rain. It didn't rain, so it would have been fine, but I stuck with a 160 on the back, lots of power, 180 on the front, and you can see in these shots here how much quicker I was able to go. I mean, it's a confidence thing, and I know the descents, but the time I got on descents with the big fat tyres and being comfortable with the disc brakes and having extra power was, and the big tyres again, if you've ever been to the Lake District, you know what the road's like. It's kind of laughable when you see people turning up on skinny 25mm tyres and just being rattled to death on the descents. So I was running 56 psi in the back, which is the 32, and 60 psi in the front, which is the 30. I could have probably gone even lower and gone just as quick, if not quicker, just to get more comfort, because on a long ride like that, which is, you know, really physical, it's not just about the meters of climbing or the distance, it's about the vibrations through your upper body, the strength in your upper body, because you're always out of the saddle. Comfort is key. Comfort is speed on a long ride like that. But you can modify what you've got without spending a lot of money, rather than just replacing the group set, which is the first thing that the bike shop will tell you to do. So you can remember, you can always push it before you have to change anything. Like I said, this was a short cage, 1130 max was the stipulated range, but I went to 1134 straight away with no mods. The head unit that I use that keeps beeping in the background, this is the iGPS 630 with a massive crack on the screen. Why did I use that? Because after 7 hours of the Fred Whitton, so the whole thing, it only used 13% battery. It was down to 87% at the end. Now, you know, normally I ride with a small Garmin Edge 520 or 520 plus. That just wouldn't have got me round. So I use this, one sensor connected, which was the power meter, and 13% battery in 7 hours. I don't know how they do it. It's incredible. It's been a really reliable unit since I've had it. Other things like nutrition and feeding and how many bottles I drank and how much carbs I drank, I can put in another video if you're interested, so let me know on that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. If you like these kind of things, please scan this code, because I know you're probably watching this on a smart TV, drinking beer on the sofa. It's really clunky, isn't it, to get the remote and trying to find the subscribe button. So scan it with your phone. Please subscribe to the channel, it really helps. So yeah, cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.